Okay, so today I just wanted to cover how most people seem to think that they pay their mortgages, which is generally they sort of envision this. That's sort of how you sort of imagine your mortgage getting paid over time. Unfortunately, the reality is that it's more in the sense that it's more like this. I'll explain why that's the case now. So, say you've got a 25-year mortgage. Okay, now let's say that you've got a total mortgage of 250,000 pounds. You put down a 10% deposit, put down a 10% deposit of 25,000. So your loan amount is 225,000. You will essentially be paying each year at 5% interest. Well, for your first year, your monthly payments will be £1,315.33 per calendar month. Okay, which adds up to 15,787.96 for the year. However, you would have also paid £11,250 in interest. So even though you've paid 15,000 towards your mortgage, the reality is that you've only paid for that year £4,507.96, which is why your mortgage term tends to sort of actually go. So it's not a straight line, but it tends to sort of go sort of flat and then sort of plateau. So it's very different. So as you're making more payments, you tend to pay less interest, and eventually it starts to speed up as you're clearing the interest. Another way of thinking about it is that, let's get rid of this, is that essentially each year you're making a payment, but the interest brings you back up a bit. You make a payment, interest brings you back up a bit. You make a payment, interest brings it back up a bit. You make another payment each year. Eventually, you'll find that as you're making more payments over a longer period of time, you're paying less interest. So it starts to curve downwards more quickly until you realize that the amount of interest that you're paying is less than the payments you're making, which is kind of why you kind of get this kind of curve like this. All right, so that's one way of doing that. Okay, next I want to talk about what it would be like if you had a 25-year mortgage, a 35-year mortgage instead of a 25-year mortgage, or how it would benefit if you had a shorter mortgage term to a longer term. What's the difference essentially? Okay, so this time we'll be going over 35-year mortgage. Right. So essentially everything else is going to be the same. So you're still putting down, we're still going to be putting down your 10% deposit. Lines are the same. We've got your 10% deposit of 25,000. The loan amount of 225,000. And then the total property value of 250,000. Is that enough zeros? Okay, so here, what you will actually be paying is each month you have a slightly lower payment of £1,135.55 per pound a month, meaning that your annual payments are £13,626.60 for the year, but your interest is still the same. So you're still paying, your interest is still going to be 11,000. Okay, for the year. So essentially, in your first year, you'll still be paying the same amount of interest. However, you've only paid off £2,376.60. So you will overall be paying a lot more in interest because you'll be bringing it down at a much slower pace. So your mortgage will just take longer. I'll draw on a straight line. But essentially, it means that you finish sort of over here, essentially. So there is that. So again, you've got the same sort of zigzag, but it just goes on longer because you're not paying as much each month, and you'll find that you sort of finish down here, giving you that sort of still sort of curve that goes like this. Again, if you do have a shorter mortgage, you'll find that you'll still have that same sort of interest rate to begin with, but you'll be paying larger payments, making larger payments. So if you've got something like a 15-year mortgage, I haven't got the maths for this, but essentially, if it was the same, you'd be making a bigger chunk of payment. You still get that £11,000 interest. You make a bigger chunk. You've got maybe £7,000 of interest or something. I don't know. But you're paying significantly less each year because you want to bring it down faster. But you still have that kind of curve. It would still do this, but it would just sort of come down sooner. Okay? The last one that I wanted to discuss. What did I do? Okay, and the last one that I wanted to discuss is the interest-only mortgage. So let's say that it's the same again. You have a £250,000 property, but this time you put a 25% deposit. All right. So interest only. Okay, so you got 250,000 value of the property. You have put down a deposit of 25%, which is 62,500, which means that your loan amount is 1,800 and 187,500. Okay, so at 5% interest, because you're only paying the interest, your monthly payments would be 781.25 each month, and that happens indefinitely. So your mortgage will never go down. It will never get to. It will never get to here. It will never end the term. Well, I mean, you will eventually have to renew your mortgage term. However, it won't ever sort of get down to zero. You'll be constantly paying, so your mortgage just remains constant. You can occasionally make overpayment, so you can bring it down, and then your monthly payments will reduce. So you can always bring that down by reducing your month by paying extra into it. Of course, it'll be subject to the lender, but a lot of people will use this as the property value goes up. You can then release equity from the property, but I suggest speaking with a mortgage advisor if you'd like to know more information on that. Of course, bear in mind that interest rates can fluctuate, so if you are paying 5% now, you may be paying more in the future. They may be going down. So your monthly payments on both an interest only mortgage or a buy to own mortgage, which is the standard one that most people are on, can fluctuate, and you may also need to be credit checked against that. Okay, guys, thanks for watching, and hopefully you found this helpful. We'll see you soon.